Jeff Berwick.
Yeah, you just have to say my name, I show up.
Thank you so very much for being on DonkDown Radio.
Oh, thank you.
A handful of my listeners, they all clamored, they said, we need to get Jeff Berwick on the show. We've had a lot of anarchists. Of course, we talk about Bitcoin a lot and some of the alts. And thank you very much for taking time out of your day. And I apologize. I'm trying to convince this creationist to start having sex and stop believing that the world is 6,000 years old.
That's going to take a while, I think.
Yeah, no, it should be a few more episodes probably until he really comes along. But I think we're making headway here. He has to. We're going to get him.
I was actually thinking about this recently. That I don't really know if the world's older than 6,000 years. I don't know anything. What do I really know? But I like to see the actual things with my own eyes a lot, and I don't say that's not impossible.
I like this new simulation theory that they've been talking about. We're just like, because there are some things that are like, you're almost too good of a character. Like, I mean, Jeff Berwick is sitting here. He's got what looks like a fine glass of Chardonnay or something. And it's like one part Bond villain, one part Silicon Valley startup kind of feel to it. I like it. I like your style already.
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking about life a lot recently. If I had to actually, bet, we're talking poker a little bit here too. If I had to actually bet, what is life? I'd say if I had to bet, I'd say I think it's a really advanced video game, because that's one of the best explanations I can figure. Because if you actually look at nature, there's so many things in nature that look like they were coded, like the Fibonacci thing, where almost everything in nature all has sort of the same code. So people who believe in the Big Bang is one example, though. That's just religion and science, because here's how the universe started. There was nothing, and then all of a sudden there's this giant explosion, and then there was everything. It's like, well, that's the same thing as God in those terms. There was nothing, and then there was God, and He created the universe or whatever. Maybe God's a really good computer programmer.
Can you tell me a little bit about your entrepreneurship? Just like a little bit about how long have you been evangelizing Bitcoin?
Ever since I first heard about it, really. I started the Dollar Vigilante in about 2010. And the whole theme of the Dollar Vigilante is that I'm expecting the U.S. dollar to completely collapse sometime in the next 5 to 10 years. And I tell people how to avoid getting ruined by it and how to actually profit from it. And one of the things that I always got asked a lot was, if the dollar collapses and all fiat currencies collapse, which is what I'm expecting, what will replace it? And I used to always say that the free market, the private enterprise, would come in with solutions. And so then when I first heard about Bitcoin in 2011, I was really excited, because that was the actual free enterprise coming in and creating a new currency that as you know, is catching on all over the place now. And then once I really learned about Bitcoin, and it took me quite a while, obviously, months of, and I'm still learning about it. It's the technical aspects are pretty deep, but as I learned how it worked and as I started using it, I loved it. I do a lot of business all over the world, and trying to do bank wire transfers and open bank accounts. It takes weeks to open accounts. Sometimes you have to show them all sorts of documents. And then if you have money in there and you want to wire it to some other place, a lot of time it'll get frozen and they'll ask you what you're doing with the money, all that kind of stuff. And this is all just goes away with Bitcoin. You can transfer any money anytime you want and in no time at all, and really no transaction fees. And it just enthralled me. And of course, I've been a big fan of I've always been a poker player for the last 10 years or so, and so when I found Seals with Clubs, I started playing Bitcoin poker there on Bitcoin.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool. Those type of stories, just from a startup sort of mindset, make me just really validates the Seals with Clubs project when when a smart guy just comes along and really enjoy, and he uses it, maybe he can make money from it, and maybe he can run up some Bitcoins if he's a savvy enough poker player. Then I think that's cool. And I echo your thoughts on the Fed and the international monetary system, and I don't understand. I always, you know what, I play a game with all the banks and all the banks. You have to have bank accounts just if you grew up in the 80s. And I asked them, why does the check take 3 days? I've always tried to find that answer. Why, if you give me a check, maybe it's a different bank, but it's like maybe Wells Fargo to Citibank, and you have Citibank and I have Wells Fargo, and you give me a check and I put it in my account. Why does it take 3 days, Jeff Berwick?
Oh man, I used to work at a bank. That before I started becoming an entrepreneur, I worked at a bank, and oh my God, it's just terrible. Everything is so archaic. The whole system is anachronistic. They haven't really improved a lot of their systems in decades, and of course, there's been a lot of advances in technology in that time. I still have a bank account in Canada that if I want to do a wire transfer, I have to fax it. In 2014.
It's embarrassing.
It's very embarrassing. So it's not just that they suck. It's just like, and it's not just like they're trying to make everything slow, but it's archaic, and this whole system, and Bitcoin just blows it away. It's so much better. If anyone, I'm sure most people are listening to this, use Bitcoin, but if you haven't, just get some somehow. Maybe in whatever your work is, try to get them to pay you some in Bitcoin or something, or if you have products, sell them on the internet for Bitcoin. That's very easy to do nowadays, any product. And then just go and buy something with it, or transfer it if you need to transfer money to someone, and just watch it, how amazing it is. You just enter the address and hit enter, and you hear a beep, and it's done. And you could transfer $1 million around the world in 1 second. Really, the amount of time it takes for you to do it is 1 second. It might take up to 10 minutes or so for the transaction to be fully authenticated, and there's no cost for it. And it's amazing. And so I'm one of the biggest Bitcoin advocates out there. I've been on Fox Business, CNBC, Bloomberg, RT. I've been everywhere. I do a lot of interviews on Bitcoin, and it's pretty funny talking to some of these mainstream media prostitutes. They just have no idea. It's almost like talking. I was around at the start of the internet, and I started an internet company in Canada called Stockhouse.com, which is still the top financial website in Canada. And I remember around 1994 just talking to people about the internet. It feels like today talking to people about Bitcoin the same way. A lot of people in 1994, if I had ads on my site and I wanted to sell the ads to a company that I thought would want to do that, I would go in and I'd say, hey, would you like to advertise on our website? And they'd say, what's a website? And then I'd say, it's on the internet. And they'd say, what's internet? And this is how it feels with Bitcoin right now. But I think there's going to be massive opportunities. And I think you're doing one of them. I think Bitcoin poker is going to be absolutely massive. And I actually wouldn't mind getting involved on the promotional side of it. And there's so many opportunities, not just poker, almost anything you can imagine. So for people who look back at the start of the internet and think, oh, I missed the boat on that. Oh, why couldn't I have been around then and started up a company and made millions of dollars? Well, you're getting a second chance here with Bitcoin. There's nothing but opportunity in this field. It's not going to be easy because governments are the most dangerous gangs on earth. Obviously, the U.S. government's by far the most dangerous gang that's ever existed, and they're trying to shut things down left and right. And I really found it funny that they charged Charlie Shrem and Dread Paul Roberts, or whatever his name is, Pirate Roberts, with money laundering. And then last week, the IRS came out and said, Bitcoin isn't money. So they're...
Did you see Ross Ulbricht's sharp-ass lawyer? Immediately after that, he filed a motion saying, how can he be laundering money? He immediately, his lawyer had that motion right after the IRS announced its property.
Yeah,
and taxes hilarious this year. I own property. 64 characters. If I own 64 specific characters, then it's property. But 65 isn't, and 63 isn't either. But 64 exact characters is property. It's just such a weird. It is not obviously logical. Jeff,
nothing government does.
I love what you're saying right now. By the way, I've heard. Did you hear Mark Andreessen's similar words that he echoed, saying, "This seems to me like Netscape guy, Mozilla guy says this seems to me like this when it was started on the internet. It's the same kind of shit."
Yep.
And that's when two smart men start saying that. I get. This is very personal, but I actually get a little bit aroused. I get like a half when smart men start saying stuff like that. Because I think what you think. I think Bitcoin poker just makes more sense than anything else out there, and it's ridiculous to do it any other way, it seems like.
Yeah, I was really amazed because I've been playing internet poker for years. I like to do it sometimes just to relax. I'm actually not great at internet poker because I get kind of distracted and stuff like that. My real poker skills are more live. I use a lot of reading sort of skills as my main sort of tools. But I remember when the U.S. government took down, they made it so it was illegal to have online poker in the U.S. in the land of the free, of course. Yeah, and I was amazed at how few poker players, like all the professional poker players and all that, I was amazed how few of them really were angry about it. So many people are so whipped, they're brainwashed to be slaves that they think that the U.S. government is like, so if they say you can't do it, you just can't do it. And it's like, what? It makes no sense whatsoever. And of course, then they sort of overturned it, and it was a big lobbying effort and to get the Las Vegas casinos to actually profit from it. And now they're even talking again about shutting it down. And of course, Bitcoin poker just goes right around that. Bitcoin is an evolution in money and banking. It's not a revolution, because the revolution is like a full circle. But this just moves beyond that archaic, controlled, statist, horrible system that has really impoverished so many people through inflation and manipulating the economy and the interest rates, which really destroy wealth massively, and it actually creates a lot of wealth for the financial elites who can actually stay ahead of this inflation. They get the money first and that sort of a thing. But this thing just moves way past it. I'm surprised there isn't more people that are especially Americans, that aren't into Bitcoin poker at this point. But I think that's the opportunity. I think you could see playing poker on the internet for Bitcoin become the standard.
I mean, first of all, I think the wage slaves of the world have the arbitrary system that is fiat currency, laws, money, government. It entraps. It is such a perfect game. It is just such a well-designed system that they do. None of the. I completely echo what you said about the poker players. Once they took away their fucking livelihood, they just sat there and said, okay, well, I'll just go move to Mexico, I guess. Or, okay, I'll just go start playing live in Las Vegas. I said, well, I mean, those two, I have a baby on the way to at that time. And, it's a nice income, I mean, it's not, it probably is the best thing that ever happened to me that the United States government took away online poker because, well, I was one of those ones that was, I was pretty fucking pissed off, Jeff Berwick. I was not. I mean, this is something that I like to. I sort of plan to, play computer poker at my house and raise a baby. Just not really leave. And then I really did. I started to have to play live just in the interim before I could find another plan, because that plan didn't sound sustainable. Is to drive around playing poker all my life. That didn't sound fun either. But. So I think that a small percentage got really fucking motivated. I know some friends that got into other stuff too, and we just may change the world here, or at least the poker world.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, this is. Yeah, with government, there's always opportunity and there's always risk. And so, it created a huge opportunity for those people who understood Bitcoin to start up Bitcoin poker sites. And most of the other people still haven't caught on to this. So there's going to be a huge advantage there. And actually, I would doubt if many of the other poker sites start accepting Bitcoin because it's too risky for them, because they're really under the thumb of the U.S. government and all their regulations, and they'll probably say it's illegal or something like that. And they don't want to lose their current U.S. dollar business, so they probably won't even take the chance. So I think there's going to be some real opportunities in Bitcoin poker. And actually, I wanted to do my own Bitcoin poker company a couple of years ago, but I'm just too busy. But I'm glad to see other people are. And I think it's going to go nothing but grow from here.
I'm the affiliate manager for Seals Clubs also, and we offer a straight, just anybody serious, and obviously you're very much overqualified, a straight 20% MGR plan for life of your players, and of course I'd love to extend that to you, and just anything you want to do with that unique link, then start a nice BTC income stream too, if what you said is true. Sort of moves that way.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
I get people that say, I missed the Bitcoin boat, and I just look at them crazy like, it's pre-flop. I mean, it's just...
I was just saying the cards haven't even been dealt yet, much less pre-flop.
Oh, well said. Well said. Blinds and the small blind is posted. How about that?
Yeah, that's about where it's at. And it's funny because I meet a lot of people. I go to a lot of Bitcoin conferences now. I was just at one in Austin, Texas. I'm going to be at one next week in Toronto. But I talk to people all over the world, and I travel a lot. And it's amazing. I either hear from people that Bitcoin, they missed the boat on it, or Bitcoin's garbage. It's rarely in between. A lot of people say, "Oh, Bitcoin is a scam. It's just going to go away. It's going to go to zero any day now." Actually, there was one guy on CNBC just yesterday who said Bitcoin is going to negative $100. He said it's going to cost you money if you have Bitcoin. It's like, what? These people are insane. And then you have the other people, the people who say they missed the Bitcoin boat. I think they have a bit of a mental issue because they sound like they're self-defeating, sort of making excuses. It's like, oh, well, I missed it. Look, there's already a poker site. There's already this site up. And, everyone's already done everything there is to do in Bitcoin. It's like, no way. It's not even close to that. And so if you're an entrepreneur, that'd be one of the biggest areas I'd be looking at right now, is anything related to cryptocurrencies.
Coin accepting, PGP done properly, done easy. Boom. Take that idea. You can sell the business for 25 million in 16 months. Free roll. Just you haven't missed it yet. I hate people, like a lot of my friends, because I've been evangelizing it since around 2011. And that's when we popped up the poker site, and they had it up before I got there, but 12 people, 5 people logged in or whatever, and they've seen that, they know that I was posting that I bought Bitcoin when it was $17 and stuff, and so they see that, and then I'm looking at the fall from 1,200 to 420 or whatever today, right now-ish. And all I think is that there's opportunity. All I can see is opportunity from business, from just investing in just purchasing straight up Bitcoin and holding. I think that's still. I think everything is still the same. You could still play on seals. You could still take free money once a week from this exact show. We do a 0.3 Bitcoin free roll for DonkDown every single week. And we used to do a 10 coin free roll in 2011. And even a little bit of 12. And so people are like, oh, it used to be 10 coins. You're going to be saying in a year and a half from now, they used to give away 0.3 every show. I mean, the same principles, it's still here, boys. Don't worry. Start now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The one thing that people could be doing if they're more programming minded, especially if you are a computer programmer, is really learn Bitcoin and learn how to do things with Bitcoin, because there's going to be so much opportunities. If you're just a programmer, you could go to so many companies and say, hey, I can easily integrate Bitcoin into your payment systems, all that kind of stuff. There's going to be so much opportunity, and it's not going away. Hey, I was just curious, are you playing right now on Seals?
The boys.
Oh, okay. Okay. Is it too late for me to get in on that?
It is too late. It is free to register. You can come every single Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. It starts. Okay. I mean, if you just maybe you'll get a habit. You can be on the show every week, Jeff, if you want to. That's the sort of show. Totally no format. My podcast is 100% no format. You can swear if you like. That makes you happy. I do sometimes. And just give it away for free. I don't want anybody's money. Just listen. I do this instead of therapy, is what I do.
Well, we should play Heads Up or something while we're talking.
I will
make it more interesting.
Absolutely. Whatever. Just you call the game. Call game cash. Sit and go. Heads up. Whatever you want.
Oh, is there Heads Up? Sit and Goes on here? I didn't even know that. Oh yeah, there is. I never even saw that tab.
In any game, I can launch a new sit, or so can you. Everybody can launch a new sit and go if it's not the exact stakes in the game that you want, is not to your liking.
Well, why don't you launch one just for fun? Sit and go. Can you do that?
Can I just do a $0 buy-in? I can transfer you just chips, and we can play this two-chip heads up turbo. That's easy.
Well, I've got chips.
Well, then just I mean, how much you want to play for, Joe? What?
Say 300 on here?
Okay.
Not Bitcoins.
3.3.
Yeah.
Sure. I will request open a sit and go. We'll see if the system usually works. No limit hold is your game of choice, correct?
Yeah.
I will stakes 300. I think we can 200 or 500. We should really have 300 here. It's kind of weird you can't launch a 300 chip tournament.
200's fine then. You sound like you're pretty good, so I don't...
You sound like you're pretty good. I don't think that I'm going to have a... This isn't a real quick... This isn't going to be the easiest 200 chip that I've ever made, I don't think. Or lost.
We'll see.
I am registered a good man. Should you want to gamble while discussing the future of the digital currency world.
So what's the name of the... How do I find it?
Under Citgo tab NLHEHU Turbo 200 number 2. Alternatively, you can sort the reg and see there's only a couple people sitting waiting for action. And I am one of them.
Okay, I see it. Just trying to log in here. Yep, MicCon. What's going on? Trying to get in. Do I have... I'm trying to double click it and it's not working.
Just single click it and then bottom right click register.
Okay, there we go. Ah.
Ha ha ha.
Should be able to click it. There we go.
I agree. Our UI is certainly the weakest point of Seals.
Yeah, there could be some improvements for sure. Yeah,
we're working hard behind the scenes.
It's still early. Actually, it's improved dramatically. I tried to play it, actually. I think it was almost a year ago or something, and it was really bad. And it was only about a month ago that I just was curious if it had improved, and I was really amazed how much it had improved. It's like massively better.
I appreciate that, and we are working behind the scenes. I accidentally launched a turbo. I don't know if that is...
Oh, that's fine.
But
we'll make it quick.
Yeah, it is what it is. The team is currently in sprint mode, and we should see some stuff. Probably take another month or two, but we should see some cool new features pretty soon on Seals. And new games are going to be this year. I'm hoping. I don't want to overpromise because I always do that. But we should. I think this year. I think sooner this year, but I'm comfortable saying this year.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't know if there's any way I can get involved with it at all, even as an investor or somehow a promoter. Somehow, I'd love to.
Yeah, probably discuss that off air, but there's. but no, certainly there's always just there's always possibilities, things, whatever. But tell me a little bit about this. You sailed the world. Just got in a boat, sailed around the world.
I tried. Actually, it's a funny poker-related story. I had just sold my internet company, and I wanted to go out and just figure out what's going on in the world. So I wanted to travel around the world. So I bought a sailboat, and I started basically in Canada. And sorry, it's kind of hard doing these interviews while playing poker. I don't know how you do it so well. So I made it all the way down as far as El Salvador. And it took me actually 1 year to the day, and I sank it off the coast of El Salvador. But the funny part about this story is that I actually, because I was so into internet poker at the time, that was my main thing. I was just really into was just reading and learning about the world and playing internet poker. And I got this satellite system for my boat so I could play even if I'm in the middle of the ocean. And so I'd be crossing, one time I was coming from Cabo in Mexico, crossing over to Mazatlan, which is about 500 miles out in the open ocean. And I was playing 4 tables at a time while sailing. It was a sailboat, and it was kind of rough weather. And I'd have to actually go out every 5 or 10 minutes and adjust the sails and stuff. And I'd come back, and I'm playing 4 tables. And I was chatting with a friend online, and he said, "You must have ADD or something. Like you're going through almost like a storm in the middle of the ocean here while playing 4 tables of poker at the same time." And the funny part was, so I'd have to go out every now and then, like the wind would shift and big waves would be hitting the boat, and I'd go out, come back in soaking wet, and I'd miss like a hand, or I'd time out on things. And after a bit of that, some people started getting mad at me. They're like, "What's going on?" And I said, "Oh, sorry, I'm sailing to Mazatlan right now in a storm, so I have to go out and adjust the sails every now and then." And there was like no response, like no one believed me.
That's awesome. I don't think that. I didn't think the internet was that fast in the middle of the open ocean.
Well, it's improved dramatically. This was back in 2004, and here's another funny story about it. I bought this the satellite, those big dome things you see, and back then it was really early. Like they had just started making these things, and it was slow and it was expensive. But I didn't even understand how expensive it was because they said it was like something like $30 per megabit or something. Or it was like a really like not cheap at all. But I had actually done some math, and I said, okay, what's the poker? What kind of bandwidth does it take up? And I figured I'd be paying about $1,000 to $2,000 a month just for internet access. But I didn't notice it was megabyte instead of megabit, or megabit instead of megabyte. And they didn't send me the first bill until I had already been sailing for 2 months. And I got the bill, and it was for $29,000. And I called them and I said, "What's up? I thought it was like, this much per megabit." And they said, "No, it's megabyte." Oh, I think I got, oh, there we go.
See how
all
much
right, I win.
Well played. Well played, sir.
I win. Thank you.
Jeff wins.
So
I lose. He is the better man. According to one sit and go poker. I've been bested. I fully admit it.
This is how I make my money. I go on poker radio shows and distract you with interesting stories to make you go all in with King Jack. But so I called the satellite company and I said, I made if you would have sent me the bill in the first month, I would have got a bill for like $14,000, and I probably would have just paid it because that was my mistake. But it was 2 months until I even got the first bill to see what the actual amount was going to be, and it turned out to be almost $30,000. And I said, can we just, can I pay I think I ended up paying $13,000 or something, and I stopped using it as much, obviously. But yeah, it was really expensive, and so I definitely was a losing player for those 2 months.
They did make you pay it, huh? They made you fully pay it.
No, they gave me a half off or something, because I said to them, I told them, and I was honest. I said I was expecting it to be quite a bit. I didn't know it was this expensive, and I had it in my head that whatever the first month is, I'll figure out how much I want to use it or not. But because you didn't send me the bill for 2 months, it racked up to $30,000 before I even knew how much it was. And so they said, okay, we'll just pay $13,000 or something, and I did, and then I didn't use it quite as much anymore after that. I definitely wasn't watching YouTube videos anymore.
Each YouTube is like $150 per YouTube. That's awesome. So Jeff, what's this? I also heard that this YouTube show, and I'm going to have to consume a lot of your media after this. And I have a 1.4-year-old daughter, so I didn't research. I wish I would have researched you better. But I'm not a good podcast host. I'm not professional. But what's this Anarchist YouTube show?
Yeah, it's called Anarchast, and I'm an anarchist, and what I do is I just interview anarchists, and I've actually interviewed over 115 so far. So many amazing people, including Doug Casey, Lou Rockwell, Walter Block, a lot of the big names in anarchy, and it's very interesting. If people are interested in freedom and anarchy, they should check it out. It's just at anarchast.com. That's just ANARCHAST.com.
And you're located in Chile?
No, I'm all over the world. I kind of live as a permanent traveler, perpetual tourist, prior taxpayer. And most of my time, though, like when I'm at home, I travel a lot, is in Acapulco, Mexico. That's where I am right now.
Do you have many passports? Do you have visas? Or is it something that can't be discussed publicly?
No, I discuss it very publicly. I don't hide anything I'm doing. Everything I do is actually legal. I don't have to pay taxes because of it. It's something called the PT theory, the prior taxpayer theory. And basically, yes, I have more than one passport. I have a Canadian passport because that's where I was born, and I have a Dominican Republic passport. And because I'm a Dominican, Dominican Republic doesn't have any taxes that apply to me. And if you're Canadian and you live outside of Canada, you don't have to pay Canadian taxes, so I don't legally have to pay any taxes at all. Americans aren't so lucky. Americans are some of the most enslaved people on earth, and the U.S. government will tax you no matter where you live. Even if you left and you never went back to the U.S. for 50 years, they will still want you to pay income tax on any money you make. And so what I do, actually, I have something called TDV passports, and that's at tdvpassports.com. And I help people get foreign passports. And a lot of people, especially Americans now, are just getting a foreign passport, usually in a tax-free jurisdiction, and then they renounce their U.S. passport, and then they can finally stop paying for all the wars and welfare and destruction of the U.S. government.
You're an insanely interesting man, Jeff. Insanely interesting. And I want to know many, many more. I want to know much, much more. What do you have a Bitcoin business that's your Bitcoin play?
Like my favorite one?
Are you just invested, or did you purchase Bitcoin itself? I think that's the best play as opposed to making a Bitcoin business. I just still think if somebody has money already, then just buy Bitcoin, it seems.
I'm kind of on the opposite side of the fence on that one than you are. I think Bitcoin itself is still a risk. You don't know where it's going to go. If the U.S. government and every government on earth really went after it, it would really hurt it. And it could be taken over by another cryptocurrency. It's totally possible. There could be flaws found in it that could be attacked. So it's not like an investment that you're going to put your life savings into. But the good thing about Bitcoin is my thought process on it is it's either going to go to zero in the next 5 or 10 years, which I highly doubt, but it is possible. Or it could go to, and I've done the calculations, about $1 million per Bitcoin in today's dollars if it actually overtakes and becomes a worldwide used currency. So you don't really have to put a lot of money into Bitcoin to speculate in it and actually make a lot of money, because if it does go to $1 million from $400, you're going to be doing pretty good. And if it goes to zero, so I actually recommend it for people who want to speculate in it, to not put more than maybe 5 or 10% of your savings into it, unless you want to be risky and a gambler, which is, poker related sort of thing. But poker isn't really gambling. It's actually, it's a game of skill. But if you are a real gambler, you could gamble and it'd be all or nothing sort of a bet. But I think the Bitcoin businesses is where the real opportunity is, because, for example, we could see Seals with Clubs 3 years from now be $1 billion company. It is possible. And I don't know what it's worth today, but I'm pretty sure it's not worth $1 billion. So there's a lot of upside there. And if you can get invested or start up these companies, you could really see massive gains.
Pay the internet fees. And if Bitcoin's at $1 million each, we're playing heads up Gangnam style on repeat. I'm gonna have my investment.
Even if you lose all your money in Bitcoin, you still can rebuild it somehow.
I've lost all my money more than a couple times already.
Yeah, me too.
It doesn't matter, whatever. It's fun. It's fun to try to get it back.
Yeah, I've gone through so many swings myself. I started my first internet company out of my house, and I quit my job at the bank, and I wasn't really making much money. And 5 years later, it was worth $240 million at the height of the tech bubble. And then 6 months later, it was worth almost nothing again, and I hadn't sold it during that time after the tech bubble collapsed. And so I went from being pretty broke to quite wealthy to pretty broke again. Not totally broke, because I managed to sell the company for a little bit at the end. And then I put it all into gold stocks in around 2003, 2004, and I made a killing up until 2008, and I didn't sell any of them. And so I was worth a lot of money again. And then those gold stocks, especially the junior gold stocks, they went down like 95% in 2008, and I had all my money in it. And so I was then broke again. So then I started the Dollar Vigilante, and then I've been doing this. Company's grown quite big now. We do passports, offshore companies. We do wealth management. We all kinds of businesses that we're involved in. So starting to build my way back up again here. So yeah, it's all just numbers really. And and it's not a big deal as long as you've got enough to kind of survive. If you're broke and you can't even afford ramen, that's a bigger deal. But yeah, these are the ups and downs, and most entrepreneurs go through these sort of swings. This is very normal. A lot of people who are worth a lot of money have failed completely in businesses, and that's just what happens in business, and it's actually a good thing, and it's just the way it is, and a lot of people don't understand that, and so many people, like you look at Steve Jobs, that's a really interesting person. You know, he was worth nothing, and then when he was like 23, all of a sudden he's worth like $1 million, and the next year he's worth 10 million, and the next year he's worth 100 million, and then he kind of had some people come into the company. Well, no, he didn't. What happened was he brought in some people to run the company, and they ran him out. They said, "Oh, we don't need you anymore," which happens a lot in business. It's unbelievable. And then he was basically kicked out, and he had money, though. He still had some money, but not as much as he used to. And then he started up Pixar, which is now the world's biggest movie company by far, I think, and makes tons of money. He also started Next, and I'm not sure what happened with that, but I think it failed, or he sold it for pretty cheap. And then he came back to Apple, and then he was worth billions and billions. Yeah, he totally made it rain.
And then he said iPhone. Then he said, "You want to know what? Here's another market. Here's a brand new whole fucking market. Smartphone, bitch." And then he's like, "You want to know what? Here's another market. Tablet. What?" And that's gangster.
And music. Here, let's take over the music business, become the biggest retailer of music on earth in a couple of years.
The richest company in the world, when he died, because randomly after those massive wins, when he got cancer, he decided to just eat strawberries. And that's fucked up, Jeff. I can't get over that. I can't figure that out.
Actually, I've read a lot about well, he was always really strange. Like he called himself a fruitarian for many years, which you just eat fruit. And I think it's quite unhealthy, actually. It's not very healthy. A lot of the ideas he had about diet, I think, were quite wrong, and I don't know if it contributed to what happened. But you know, if I found out I had cancer right now, and I'm sitting here smoking a cigarette as I'm talking, but if I found out, I'd be like on the internet ordering cannabis oil. There's all sorts of actual things that work to cure cancer, and I don't think strawberries is one of them.
If cannabis oil works to cure cancer, I'm never getting that shit.
Oh, that stuff is like such an amazing compound, and of course the U.S. government makes sure it's completely illegal because they don't want anyone to actually not die.
I don't understand the arbitrary rules that are like laws, and like, I mean, of course banking is just you watch the slaves, of course, that just get tricked by it, but then there's like the laws are just, they tell you, like, I live in Vegas. There's alcohol in they can't stop offering me alcohol. They just can't. I play poker too sometimes. I mean, they just go there. Alcohol, free alcohol. And then I will sneak off like a criminal. And because I want to smoke a joint, which is just so I can just relax, sit in my chair, play the game that I really like, and, you know, maybe not talk so much for the next few hours. That's like my ideal, you know, and I have to sneak. And it's like, but if I wanted just to get rip-roaring blasted and start just belligerently berating people, like, that's just sort of like normal.
Yeah, it's terrible, yeah. And then 2 states over now, marijuana is legal, and it's just crazy. Anything to do with statism is evil and crazy, and it's horrible, and there's nothing good about it. There's nothing good about collectivism, and when you get these people together who have power, it just creates nothing but chaos and horrible things. And there's literally millions of people in jails, like, who have been kidnapped and thrown into a cage for years just for having some plants in their pocket. And you know, even in Colorado right now, they've legalized it. Actually, a friend of mine was the person who started that. He started the legalization effort. He was on Anarchast. His name's Joby Weeks. And now it's legal to have marijuana. Of course, it has to be medical marijuana, which is no different than marijuana, but somehow it makes some people feel better about it.
Colorado, now you have recreational marijuana in Colorado.
Oh, okay. But you have to buy it from a certain government. But you have to buy it in some sort of certain government-regulated horrible thing. Yeah, and taxed and all that. Yeah. But then you have people who have been in jail in Colorado. Yeah, and then you have people who are in jail in Colorado for marijuana possession that are kind of like, it's legal now. And they're like, well, we don't know. We'll have to go through and think about it because, you know, you are still, we kind of just like to keep you in these cages.
So weird. It really is arbitrary, too. It is extremely arbitrary, the system.
Well, you look back at the 1930s with Prohibition, alcohol was illegal for like 10 years. During the Great Depression of all times, that's a great time to, people might want to drink. And the thing is, it never stops anyone from using it. And all it does is create people like Al Capone back then and gangsters, because they're going to get the product to voluntary customers, which are, it's very entrepreneurial, and it's great, and it's a great thing about the market. And it just creates just headless bodies in the streets of Chicago, and down here in Mexico, it's created all kinds of problems with this war on drugs, which is one of the most heinous things to ever be created. And yeah, it's more than just arbitrary, though. It is arbitrary for sure, but there's so much really evil stuff. You know, imposing your beliefs on other people by violence is very immoral, obviously, and most people don't see government as being that.
I think that the situation in Mexico with the various mafias controlling various, I mean, they're almost all false flags at this point. The military, you know, has various allegiances to various, and has been infiltrated by, you know, various gangs, the politicians and the government officials. I've heard that there really is no government in Mexico. Like, there really is no, okay, these guys are fighting these guys. You know, here's the good guys, here's the bad guys. I heard it's just insanely incestuous. Like, you try to, everybody sort of knows that this is the Templars' man in the Congress and whatever, and everybody knows that this guy's the other guy's man. You know, shit like that. I don't know if that's how it is. And you're in Acapulco too, so I mean.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting that it's very anarchic down here. Which is one of the main reasons why I spend so much time here. I love it. There's really not much government. Even just north of here in a few towns, people actually started killing all the police and the cops, the police and the mayor. And they also killed a lot of the drug cartel guys who were causing problems. And they called them vigilantes. And I'm, of course, the dollar vigilante. And you know, it's much better in my opinion. And then you have people in the States who really love their slavery. They have Stockholm syndrome, and they think, oh my God, they killed some cops. What a horrible country. It's like, no, you should. You know, if you're going to have cops, it's good to actually, you know, get rid of them any way you can, because it's a horrible thing to have is public policing, communist style, centrally planned public policing. And of course, anyone who lives in the U.S. knows that they're not officers of the peace anymore. They're law enforcers. And there's 1 million laws in the U.S. And actually, I think almost half of all people under the age of 23 have been arrested at some point in their life. It's a complete prison camp in the U.S. And a lot of people look at Mexico and they say, oh my God, like they don't really have anyone in jails. And if you go to jail, you can have like a really nice suite, and you can have flat screen TVs and hookers and alcohol and play poker. And that's terrible. It's like, it's just funny the differences in how they work. But I much prefer it down here. I've never had a cop even barely talk to me in 5 years of being here. And I go to the U.S. and just like you said, I had a couple drinks, I better be watching my rearview mirror. I might get pulled over, and then I might get thrown in a cage because I had a couple beers while I was driving. And any, you know, plants, marijuana, and everything. It's just going a little too fast. I've noticed lately that a lot of the people getting pulled over for speeding tickets, some of them are like 1 mile an hour over the limit, and some of them are actually for going like 5 miles an hour under the limit. So you have to drive the exact speed or you will get extorted. And if you don't pay those extortion fees, you will be kidnapped and thrown into a cage. And if you try to get away from it all, they'll kill you. What a phenomenal system.
I prefer to hack the system in all ways possible. You know, now that I'm still in Vegas, I love the utility of Las Vegas. I love being able to eat good food late night, and I like driving to the Bellagio and somebody will play me 40-80 mix games all night if I want. They're always there too. I just walk in there and they're always there. It's wonderful. It's such brilliant utility here, Jeff. But
oh yeah,
the whole extortion shakedown of 5 miles over, oh, you don't have your insurance. I agree that that's terrible that I have to do that. It is a shame.
No, I just had a friend who went to the DMV in San Diego, and he had to wait in line for hours. Yeah. And he had to wait in line, of course, for hours. It's a very communist style central planning agency. And then he finally got up there, and he was missing one signature to register his car. Apparently, you need to go to somebody, like some authorized government person, to check your odometer to see how many miles is on it. He didn't have that. So after spending hours, he had to go leave. He's now got to go do this, all this crazy stuff to get permission to drive, in the land of the free. No one seems to recognize how unfree the U.S. is. Well, here in Mexico, if you want to buy a car, you just pay for it. And that's basically it. And that's basically the end of it. You can register it, you can get license plates, but no one really cares too much, especially in a place like Acapulco. There's different, Mexico's a huge country. Mexico City is not quite as free as Acapulco. There's other places that are even freer. They just don't care about anything. And there's some places that are kind of bad. The border towns are pretty bad. They've got a lot of really bad cops and stuff like that who'll pull you over for anything. But down here, yeah, you just... I'll give you one example. I was driving probably a few months ago, and I was pretty drunk. It was 4 a.m, and I had a vodka Red Bull in my hand, and I was just driving home after having a fun night, and the cop car came up behind me with the lights on, and I've only had that happen twice in 5 years, by the way, and I actually had gone through every red light without even slowing down the entire trip down the main street of the city, which I always do and rarely have a problem, so I see them with the lights on, and I was like, "What? Fuck you guys!" And then they started talking. They got these walkie-talkie things where they talk, and they were saying something, but my music was on really loud, so I was like, I don't know what they're saying, so I'm just gonna keep driving. And I kept driving, and they pulled up beside me, and there was like 4 guys in the car, all with guns and all that kind of stuff. And one guy was really like, pull over, pull over. And I looked at him, and in Spanish I said, "Get out of here, you bunch of criminals." And they all kind of just looked at me, and they just kind of turned off. That's how most people down here kind of treat the police. And it's funny because a lot of Americans will come to Mexico, and they'll get pulled over because they actually target the tourists quite a bit. And if they recognize that the American tourist is kind of like doing what they do in the U.S., which is like cowering and having their driver's license and registration ready, they'll take total advantage of you. But if you really just don't take their shit for the most part. I think we lost our connection here.